Even at the start of set 9, players have been trying to make Ashe reroll work. Everyone who tried it more or less came to the same conclusion: she has potential, but she needs a bit more power. Well, patch 13.14 gave her a bit more power, so it makes sense to give this comp another try. The core concept looks something like this. You push for level 6 in stage 3-2 and slow roll for Ashe 3, Soraka 3, and if you can afford it, you can also pick up Kassadin 3. You pick up Lissandra, Akshan and Taric on the way. If you end up finding a lot of them, you can also get them to 3-star later in the game. Once you have your Ashe 3-star, you can push towards level 7 and level 8 to add Sejuani for 3 Freyord, and also maybe Sion or Jarvan in the late game to add more CC. You can also replace Akshan for Aphelios and replace Kassadin for someone like Shen. So the question that comes up a lot: is Ashe strong enough? Isn't she just a support unit? Honestly, I think she's more than strong enough if you find her as a 3-star in a reasonable time. I've seen this unit deal over 10,000 damage without breaking a sweat, while also being surprisingly stable in the mid game as a 2-star. Items obviously make a huge difference. I tried some different setups. For example, I like running 1 mana item like Shojin or Mana Zane, so she starts with full mana, and coupled with the Deadeye proc, she is able to cast her ability several times. Overall, I'd say there are 2 approaches you can go for. One is to run full damage by filling up the remaining item slots with Deathblade, Infinity Edge or Guardbreaker, and you can also combine this with strong combat augments like Jeweled Lotus and simply try to overpower your enemies. While I think it's perfectly fine to play like this, I ended up preferring a different approach. Especially when I can't find Akshan, I like to focus on the Targon trait. When you're running 3 or even 4 Targon, you increase your healing by a massive amount. As it turns out, this works wonders with Gunblade. So for example, if we end up giving Ashe a Shojin, a Gunblade and a Deathblade, her damage takes a small hit, but you make up for it by adding a large amount of utility. In a good setup, Ashe can easily heal her frontline for 4 or 5,000, which is important because you need to support your frontline as much as possible, otherwise your whole setup will fall apart. My strongest setup so far also included a Lissandra 3-star in the late game that was also running a Gunblade and gave me a great secondary win condition that left the opponents pretty much speechless. You end up with a great mix of AD and AP damage and massive amounts of healing. I think this comp is both strong and fun to play, but there are a few problems with it. As her positioning matters a lot. For example, if you put her in the middle hex of the last row, she does hit most of the board, but not the top left hex. If you put her to the side, you can end up with a terrible focus, where she ends up missing half the board. The worst case is that an enemy unit finds access to the last row and she ends up casting sideways, where you lose most of your damage. These issues can be fixed if you pay attention to your positioning, but the true problem lies in Ashe being too contested. We have Freyord Akshan, Freyord Aphelios and Freyord Zeri running around. Ashe is an extremely popular filler unit that a lot of players will pick up. Rolling for this unit wasn't the most fun I had, since I constantly struggled to find her. To prevent these cases, you have to scout in advance and potentially pivot into something else.
I found 3 Urgots, 3 Ashe.
Nevertheless, if you see an opportunity, I'd say give the comp a chance, especially the Targon version with Gunblade is something you should try at least once. I hope you learned something and see you next time.